Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Get Real with Andy. And I have a very special guest, Michael Berger, who is a friend of mine, a colleague of mine. We've done work together in weekend workshops.
Mhm.
Michael, tell us about yourself.
Andy, I'm so thrilled to be here because for many reasons. One, because I want to get real, and your show is about getting real with you. So this is a great a great podcast to join. And I've seen so many of your previous episodes. You do a great job. So thank you for what you do. So yeah, I'm Michael Berger. I'm a licensed therapist here in South Florida, private practice in a town called Boca Raton. Past couple years, I've had the good fortune of working for a very large established treatment center as a clinical trainer. So I offer training, I facilitate trainings to staff and coaching for staff, and then I've also been running a men's group now, men's therapy group, coming up on, believe it or not, 16 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
Mm. I know it's one thing we'll be talking about today, but yeah, I pinch myself. I can't believe it's been that long.
So that leads us into our topic for today,
Mm.
which I
Mm.
told you I mentioned it to a few women friends of mine, and they
Yep.
are very, very intrigued.
Hmm.
So, will you please say what the topic is and
So there, I know
while
there's
I
a
get
few.
ready?
Oh, okay, it's looking cool. I didn't bring my shades. Oh, yeah. Andy, you're showing me off here, showing me up rather. Um, I'd say, we played with a few topic names, but I'd say one that stood out to me is kind of what men share behind closed doors is I think the
Ooh,
one that stood out to me.
yeah, I like it. I'm intrigued. I
Yeah.
must admit, I've been a member of a men's group many, many years ago
Okay.
when it wasn't well known even, and it was really fun. We played together, we shared deeply together,
Mm.
and then more recently, I've been a member of a men's group for about 6 months, and
How's your experience
it
with
was
with
just
it?
lovely, wonderful, and
Good.
also really quirky. I find for myself, I surround myself more with women than with men. And so it was a real treat and an experience to surround myself with men and get heartfelt feedback from men and to see what men are really focused on other than carburetors, football, and women. People
It's
don't do carburetors anymore, right? Never mind.
well, it's certainly a stereotype for
I know.
men in terms of like
Exactly.
what we might get into what it means to be a man and toxic masculinity. We certainly can talk about that. And you mentioned how women were intrigued, and when I share with women what I do specific to the men's group, overwhelmingly they're just so thankful and grateful, and they say something to the effect of, "It's so needed. Thank you." Thank you for that. Men really need it. So I find a lot of allies in women for this kind of work.
And I do want to mention what something that comes to mind. I lead
Mm.
an ongoing healing circle at Hippocrates
Okay.
Wellness where I work. And
Uh-huh.
one time, unbeknownst to each other, guests at the very same time, and they all attended the healing circle, were
Yeah.
five military generals.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
when they shared, I mean, there were some women in the group, but it was serious band of brother sharing, and they opened up and they gave each other a kind of support that clearly a non-military person wouldn't be savvy with, let alone not a man. Uh,
Yeah.
so it was really touching and moving for me. And another experience that I've had, because you're really the expert on men's groups, so I'm going to defer to you quite a bit. So I'll just talk first a little bit.
Please.
But at one point, there was a guest at Hippocrates who is the owner of a construction company, a local construction company. And
Yeah.
he liked what I did in the group, and he said, I want you to do a healing circle with my crew.
Uh-huh.
So I went over to his place. I brought some of these toys. I do this thing where when somebody comes in late, we throw soft things at them. It's just funny. It's just
Yeah.
funny and ice breaking. And so all these tough men, construction worker men, and
Hmm.
they liked teasing. Men get close by teasing each other way more than women do
Very
in a
true.
very unique, lovely style. And so, but what I was surprised by was how quickly these men opened up to each other and really let themselves get vulnerable. I mean, I can even feel myself moistening up a little bit. It was just so sweet. Um,
And a bit surprising to you, it
yes,
sounds like.
yes,
Yeah,
I was surprised,
yeah,
especially with that particular, talk about stereotypes. You think about the guy with the tool belt and the hammer and,
mm,
who just gets shit done.
yeah.
But that wasn't where it stayed. That was just clearly the surface level. It was so lovely.
Yeah, and credit to you for doing your part in creating a safe space for them. Like, it might sound like a cliche term, but men aren't going to share at a vulnerable level unless they feel some sense of safety. They're not going to be judged. That often all it takes is one of the guys to share vulnerably, which then gives permission for the other men in the group to share at the same kind of level.
Yes,
It's powerful.
I've noticed that in general in group work, where once somebody is the path maker, other
Yeah.
people follow. And I think it is universal that we want to be intimate with each other. We want to be connected. We want to be real. And it's a beautiful impulse. And like you said, the idea is to make space for it and to invite it. And so I
Hmm.
do, even in the circles that I lead, I
Yeah.
I share. I share where
Yeah.
I'm at and what I'm going through. And
There's power in self-disclosure.
yes, and it needs to be appropriate because it's not
Yeah.
my turn per se. I'm the
Mhm.
facilitator. But part of
Mhm.
facilitating, it comes from the word facile, which means easy. To make
Yeah.
easy is what a facilitate means.
Mhm.
And so part of it is to lubricate it with my own reality.
Mhm. When
Is
you're role modeling as a facilitator too,
yeah.
about how to ask questions, how to give feedback. But I tell the guys that I do the group with is, the best groups that I've facilitated, I've spoke the least, right? It's just the guys offering the feedback to one another, challenging appropriately, asking questions, speaking succinctly. Um, and it's really amazing how it unfolds. And one of the credos I share, or the message I share to any group I'm doing is, how you show up in the group is how you show up in life, because in the
Yeah.
group, we're all in relationship with each other. So how you show up relationally will eventually reveal itself within the group. So it's like when the group is a microcosm of one's life. So, for example, if someone is monopolizing a conversation, let's say, in the group, chances are they're doing that at least in one other relationship outside of the group. And one of the many benefits of the group work is that person can get real-time feedback about what it's like to be on the receiving end of monopoly, like someone who's monopolizing, and what that's like. And we draw it out in the moment, and it can be very powerful information for this person.
That's very powerful. How you do this moment is how you do your life. To
Yes.
get real-time feedback, like you said, it's so valuable, so helpful, and can be challenging. It can
Very
be
challenging.
challenging.
Yeah, challenging to receive it, that for the man to be ready to hear that feedback. And
You know,
that's why it's
sometimes,
important to go ahead.
sometimes in the middle of somebody sharing or it's somebody's turn, I will
Yeah.
ask them, how connected do you feel with the group right now? And
Mm,
that shifts gears in a way that can be really, really cool. And I say, give me a number from 1 to 10. 10 is the most connected. And
yeah.
then I got real stuff to work with. Because if they say 4 or any number, I'll say, well, how connected do you want to feel? And then we
Hmm.
get into what's between them and actually connecting in ways that they really want.
Hmm.
I mean, that's men and women.
Yeah.
That's everybody.
Hmm.
So what would you say is you've worked with women,
Hmm.
right? What
Sure.
what would you say are some differences between working solely with men or a men's group from, let's say, a group with both sexes?
That's certainly a lot of layers to it's an answer to that question for
I know
sure.
it's a big question.
Yeah, it is a big question. Um, I think just my experience with men, I'll start there, is the unique stereotypes that they bring with them to the work. The idea of what it is to be a man, the messages that men get from childhood within the family of origin, many of them, societal media, right? So those messages that they're receiving or internalizing is very unique to men. And so they come into the group, especially those who haven't been doing that kind of work with a possible judgment of vulnerability or emotion or a bias against emoting or speaking vulnerably at all. I think women do, again, these are all generalization statements, so I want to couch it with that, but women tend to do a better job of keeping community or connecting, right? I heard, I don't know if it was a statistic, but that, when in married couples, I think if the man passes away, the man definitely is like uses his spouse as like his primary support, where the woman has her friends. So she'll encourage her husband, hey, find friends, go out, whereas the women will do that naturally. So there's epidemic of like male loneliness, for example, or just especially as men get older. Again, this is generalization, but I found that it's been challenging for them to maintain friendships and maintain those connections. Whereas I think women, again, it's a generalization, but they tend to do a better job at maintaining those connections and those peer friendships.
I also hear you saying that in some cases, it's the woman in the relationship that does the connective work for the man.
Yes, in many cases, I've found that in my work. Well, I'm thinking of one client now where he said, he works all day and he leaves like the social calendar to his wife. Like she's in charge of the social calendar. She makes sure they go out. He's friends with her friends, but he seems to be just content with, okay, I'm just hang out with my wife today or spend time with her. But for her efforts, he limits himself socially often or needs that push.
Oh my God, it almost sounds like an enabling relationship.
It can be, it can be. Men tend to appreciate the kind of that push because when they're out, they're enjoying the connections and the conversations that they're getting from that. Um,
So
but yeah,
how is a men's group different from like a men's night out?
great question. So a couple ways, and I think I can share anecdotally. I know I've got one man in my group has been with me. Geez, I've done it now. What coming on 16 years. He's been with me about eight. He he'd talk about all the time that he's been part of a poker's night with the guys, a guys' night, poker's night,
Yeah.
for many, many years, far beyond the time he's known me. And he says, I'm so close with those guys. We play poker, it's a good time. But the things that I share in this men's group, I don't talk about with them. They don't talk about it with me. Like how I'm feeling, he'll say about being a dad to my children or the dating scene as an older gentleman or shame and guilt or self-doubt. We don't talk about that with the guys. I don't talk about that in poker night. And so the guys' night out, that's certainly a meeting a unique need. But you mentioned earlier, playfulness, fun, spontaneity, connection, being silly. So that has a place. But in the men's group, certainly I have a therapist and myself who's facilitating, and I'm not out with them, socializing, going out. So there's structure to it with a therapist leading it. But I would tell the guys too that the current iteration of the group, it's nice because it's a good balance of what happens when men get together. So you have the camaraderie, the busting chops that the guys like to do, like you talked about. So you have that, some sophomore humor, But then other hand, you have moments of like really deep work. So it's a good, like there are moments where I'll put my head down, like, oh, clearly it's a men's group because you're only going to hear that like sarcastic line or inappropriate line with men. But 2 minutes later, like they're asking some deep questions and they're getting really vulnerable. So we found a good balance for men.
How long are some of the people in your group been in the group?
Yeah. So I always like to say this that There's one member in my group who's been with me, Andy, no joke, since day one. So now we're coming on 16 years, and he's been with me since the very first group. And I joke with him, I say, hey, just give me one more year and I'll cure you. Just one more year and I'll get you. But kind of
Oh.
like my joke with him. But yeah, so he started, he's a late teenager, he's now in his 30s. So
Well,
it's,
let
it's
me
been,
ask you this though,
yeah.
is I imagine that he has his intimacy needs met in the group. But is he dependent? Is he actually growing and applying intimacy skills outside of the group?
Yeah, it's a great question. And someone like him, he's certainly evolved. I mean, when you start at 19 and you're now in your early 30s, there's a lot of things that happen developmentally, socially for him. And he's been able to use the group to help him work through the life stressors that he's experienced, a divorce. Now he's a second marriage, but he's very happily married. So I find that he's used the skills, the awareness in the group. He's brought those things to his outside relationships. So I don't sense a dependency on the group, but just he really appreciates the value that he gets, the connection with the guys, as we talked about earlier. So the joking, the camaraderie, but also, one of the few spaces where he can really be open up and he can cry and he can talk about sadness and his fear and self-doubt with other men who can relate or I really get or just to have his back and can support him.
And I
Um,
also imagine that some of the people in the group, and you especially, know his history. You know this guy. You've seen him grow and evolve. And so you have a perspective that can be really helpful.
Yeah, and it's an honor to have seen him grow and so special. And one unique perspective I can always share with him is can always point out essentially like how far he's come. I can say, hey, I remember you at 20 and what you're up to, and look at what you're doing now, and what would the 30-year-old say to the 20-year-old? And I remember when he's so for him having someone in his life who can give him that feedback and remind him of the choices he was once making versus what he's making now is really been helpful. So you have him, the senior of the group in terms of length of time, 16 years. And then I think the newest member has been with me, I want to say 4 years. So 16 on the longest side, 4 years shorter, and then every time frame in between. So 8 years, 7 years, and during this time, there's been guys that have come and go, right? But right now, it's a good core group of men.
And so does somebody have to apply to be part of the group or you screen them?
Yeah, so I right now the group is full, but my general process is I'll talk with them on the phone. I actually like even meeting with them, to be honest, for like in just initial session. So I do some screening and get to know like what they want to get out of the group. Do they have experience in therapy before, where they're at? Because this group of men, it's I'll tell the therapist that I feel spoiled because I have a group of men who are highly motivated, care about each other, and are consistent. They're coming back time and time again. So I once met at an office, and so I gave myself 100% decision making on who to bring in the group to see how the connection, the chemistry was. But then, COVID hit and the group went virtual. And after a few months, guys started dropping off because they just weren't getting that same connection in that field virtually. And it dwindled down to one to no. And I thought, oh, okay, I guess that's done, and end of a chapter. But a few months passed, we were at the end of like 2020, early 2021. One of the guys said, hey, it's been so long since we've seen each other. Love to have a reunion. So he invited me too, and we all went to his house and just enjoyed the connection. And he said, listen, this is so great. Why don't we just continue meeting in our homes? And Michael, if you're okay with that, we'll do that. As I've never done it before, but sure. And
You mean you
so
rotated? You went to different people's homes?
so for the reunion, we went to one person's home, and the
Yeah.
and the guy said, "This feels so good. Let's just keep this like format." So ever since 2021, the guys have been rotating hosting. There's one guy that is like he's the primary host, so we go to his house the most. But so it's between two or three guys. So because it's in their homes, I want to make sure that the guys are comfortable with the new face because it's someone coming into their home. So I want them to feel like they have a say And so what I'll do is I'll screen someone, then I'll invite that person to like observe the group or to jump in, and then the
Do you have
guys get
like
a
a
sense.
do you have like a one-way mirror so that they can watch them?
Well, they're able to participate. So I meet with them individually. I like this guy. I think he'd be a good fit for the group. So I invite him, and so he can participate in the group. He get a sense of the guys get a sense of him, and then afterwards the guys talk about, hey, do we think this is a good fit or not? And we'll make a decision in that way.
Yeah. And so do they do that in front of the new person or after the fact?
After. So the group will have ended, and I'll ask the guy, let's say, hey John, so anything you want to share about your experience of the group today? And I liked it, and da da da. Okay, great. Hey, we'll be in touch, kind of thing. He leaves. Actually, I leave too, and then the guys spend some time talking, and then I follow up with them. Hey, what do you think? Any thoughts? And then together we decide.
Has anybody ever been rejected?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, recently that
Oh,
happened.
how
It
does
just it
that go?
wasn't. Yeah, it went, I make the call, the final call, the little call, whether it's yay or nay. And
Oh, God.
yeah, it was just that the guys felt like, they weren't getting a good feeling from the guy. Because they
Wow.
also want to make sure that this person is going to be committed. It's like a long-term process-oriented group, not like a closed group, with a set beginning and end. And yeah, I called the two guys up and I just let them know, and they were disappointed, but they understood. They
I mean,
understood.
that's really different than one-on-one therapy. I can remember a few times where I've said, I don't think this is going to work. I'm happy to
Hmm.
refer you to somebody,
Hmm.
but it was very, very rare in my years of doing this. I think
Hmm.
I can think of two times
Yeah.
where it wasn't just that I didn't want to work with them. I just really believed it. I'm not the one to help you because my style and my approach is so different from how you want to get to whatever outcome you want. And uh, if if there's so much resistance to how I do my thing, you should just go work with somebody else.
It's doing your due diligence. I've certainly had that as a therapist, one-on-one setting. There's so many choices that the consumer has or a client has in
Yeah.
getting the support. And you and I know that the most effective trait of a therapist or a good therapist is not where they went to school or the credential they have, but their ability to create safety, the therapeutic alliance is key for creating safety and trust.
You
People
know
will
what?
travel miles and miles to see someone
You know
if they
what?
feel safe.
I get that with you.
Thank
I
you,
really
Andy.
do get that with you.
Likewise.
You know why? Partly
My
because I
haircut?
feel it's the haircut. No, it's partly because when I speak, you respond to what I actually said. So I feel really heard by you.
Mm,
And it's like, man, I just want to open up with you,
I
which
get that a
brings me
lot.
to my next topic. No,
Yes. I think the guys appreciate that too. And yeah, it's so fascinating, with the group work. I mean, I love it. Just on a personal level and a professional level, I've grown so much just participating and just observing what the work that the men do, you know.
and how about for yourself? Have you been in a men's group as a
I
participant?
actually have. I was part of a men's group with a therapist who was my supervisor for licensure.
Oh,
And I was really blessed to be part of this particular group, because there was a number of guys who, again, were just committed to personal development, very insightful, very wise. Some had a lot of recovery and 12-step work. So there's a lot of wisdom there. And I got to feel, emotional. I got to share vulnerably. I remember when I first joined, I said, I'll do it for a year, right? And so coming up on a year, and there's an older gentleman there. I still kid with him from time to time. He says, Michael, I don't think you're ready to go. I think you need to stay another year. And I really like trusted in this guy's judgment. So I did. I committed another year. So after 2 years, I left. And he told me later, he said, Michael, I wasn't serious. I just want to see what you're going to do. So he was.
That's
And
nice.
these days,
That's
thanks,
like
man.
that's really lovingly messing with
Yeah,
you.
yeah. No regrets, by the way, for doing that second year. But I kid to this day when I talk to him, I kid with him about that about that moment when he said that.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, as a therapist, as you know, there's a adage that we believe that like you can't take a patient farther than you're willing to go yourself or
Oh,
have gone yourself.
yeah.
Like
That's
so, because
good.
you sit in so much discomfort and their own emotional pain, and that's challenging. Not saying you can't do it, but it's challenging to guide someone or share space with them if you haven't also on some level done similar work, your own kind of work.
You want to hear something that might sound weird?
Yes, always.
Okay. Sometimes I will have a dream overnight, or
Yeah,
something will come up within me, and I'll be doing some kind of emotional, integrative type experience.
yeah.
And then almost inevitably that day, I will have clients whom I then have a certain new ability to guide because I just covered that territory that morning.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm being used. It's so sweet.
Well, you know this. A lot of therapists, if you ask them about their niche, like why are you specializing in this issue, this concern that humans live with or struggle with, and ultimately, a majority of them will answer, well, I also struggled with blank. You know, say, hey, why are you specializing in eating disorders? Oh, I worked through my own eating disorder. Or why codependency? Well, I also start, right? So you hear that, or trauma. Oh, I worked through my own trauma. So now I want to help people who have gone through their own.
What you're saying is we attract the clients that help us work out our own stuff, and we attract the clients whom we can help because we've worked out our own stuff.
In many cases, yeah, that's true. That's what I see.
Yeah. And I want to just take that a little bit to a more cosmic level where
Please.
five retired military generals showed up in the same place. I
Yeah.
think God puts us together. God works on us in groups, not just individually.
Hmm. Yeah, there's
Whatever
these higher
God
power
might
moments.
mean, yes. That
Yeah.
it's just more than coincidence. I worked
Hmm.
in a group one time where the guy who was taking his turn was a Vietnam War veteran who
Yeah.
was he was just a mess. He'd been a mess ever since the war, and he confessed to us that he had committed war crimes. And during
Yeah.
his confession,
Mhm.
across the room from him, a woman stood up, an Asian woman, and she said, "I'm Vietnamese. I was born in a village just like you just described. My
Wow.
family told me of all my relatives that were murdered by the Americans." And all of everybody in the room, we were all stunned that the fact that they were brought together and how that unfolded was it couldn't have happened without her there. His healing simply could not and would not have happened without her loving, forgiving presence. It was, I mean, we were all in tears. It was, I personally, I felt like I'm just a tiny little pawn in God's game here,
Mm.
being moved around, and we got to witness that so dramatically. It's really awesome.
I got chills when you shared that story. You
Yeah.
know, it's a beautiful. You can't. It's hard even to script those moments that you're bearing witness to.
Yes. And I
Yeah,
mean, not all therapy is that dramatic, but it can be consistently that sweet and meaningful.
yeah, and it can open up so many things for someone who is closed off or hasn't put themselves in an environment where they're able to see different perspectives. You know, I tell the guys all the time we get wounded through relationships, but we also heal through relationships, right? And so they have an opportunity to do that. And so much of what happens challenges their implicit biases or their own prejudgments, if you will, of what it means to be vulnerable, or can I be a man and still be emotional? Is it okay to cry? Is it okay to ask for help? A lot of work in the group is also about how to communicate your needs, to time group. And so that they find that effective. Like what are you really needing from the group right now?
Yeah.
So I'm going to train them to even shift their language to speak in a direct, concise manner so that they can get their needs met. I mean, all too often, relationally, people, guys and girls will mind read or, make assumptions, and then that creates conflict and say, "What did you share how you felt?" Well, no, she should have just known, or,
Yeah.
that kind of drama that gets played out. So they get to practice communicating clearly what their needs are, and they get feedback about, again, even how they communicate. I was telling the guy last night, it's like you're sharing, I'm getting lost in your story.
Oh, yeah.
And I just kind of want to let you know that, because if this is coming up for me as you're talking, there's probably other people in your life who experience you in the same way. And this is just information, it's not a judgment, but an observation, how experiencing the moment. And guys don't have, to your point earlier, they don't have many opportunities to have conversations like that. Like, this is how I'm experiencing you in this moment. This is what's coming up for me as you're talking.
Yeah.
How does that land on you? And where else is this showing up for you? And if you shifted in your language, how do you suppose that might really help or benefit your relationships?
Yeah. You know what? I'm concluding here as we speak
Yes.
that it
Yes.
really comes down to being real and getting real because we yearn for reality,
Yeah.
to have my feelings validated. It was in a therapy group when I
Mm,
was a teenager that I
mhm.
first realized that I had feelings because there was
It's
no
powerful.
prior training
Yeah.
or indicator. I grew up in a family that wasn't of what I would consider a feeling oriented family. I'm not saying there wasn't love or anything, but it wasn't demonstrative. And so in this therapy group, I discovered that I had feelings, not just feelings, but really deep feelings, and that feelings were a way to connect with people in ways that I had, unbeknownst to me, really yearned for. It was life changing and really influenced the direction of my life. I
Life
saw,
changing, and I imagine life saving on some
yeah,
level.
yes, definitely.
I know in my family, my dad was a professor, so very cerebral, and my mom herself was a therapist, and so emotions, I don't know, they weren't necessarily meant to be felt. There's a lot of like processing going on, a lot of unasked for advice. I joke with people about my dad, to give an example what it was like living with the professors. The way he would ask us for lunch, my brothers and I, he'd walk into the living room and ask, "So boys, what are your existential feelings on lunch?" And I'm 12. I don't know what existential is. So, like, if that has anything to do with hot dogs or hamburgers, sign me up.
Yeah,
But it was
right.
that kind of like so cerebral. So it wasn't really role modeling vulnerability. And this is not a judgment conversation, but just in terms of as a man, my main male role model, my dad. Again, what are men? How are men supposed to be? Smart, big words, um, but not necessarily vulnerable or a lot of love use.
Yeah. I mean, this is a recurrent theme for me in my life and in my therapy, my
Mm,
relationship with my father, who
yeah.
was, I just remember really loving going on vacation together because
Mm,
at those times he would put his arm around me when we were having a photograph. I mean, it's a little pathetic, but I felt more close with him, and he just wasn't a touchy person at all. And I didn't know as a kid that that's something I could ask for. I even felt wrong about it in some ways. Like, well, if he doesn't do it, I guess it's not right to even want it. And and then I just blocked it out altogether. And you know what? That didn't come together for me until I went to massage school many years later when I
wow.
finally realized I like being touched.
Yeah.
I like being touched and I like touching other people.
Yeah, and it's okay. And yeah, I mean, you said it was pathetic, but I'd push back a little and say nothing pathetic about it. I think I imagine a boy who was craving touch from his dad and, didn't get it, got it so sparsely, just he said a photograph. Like that's how much it meant because you didn't get it as at all until those little moments where you got it meant so much.
Really. Yeah.
And
I'm actually being flooded with some memories right now. There was one
okay.
time we were on vacation
Hmm.
and it had been raining the day before. We were walking in the streets of some little town in Italy somewhere, and my
Yeah.
dad came up to me with his hands like this, and he didn't say anything. He just went, and so I put my hands out, and
Yeah.
he opened up his hands, and there was a little frog
Uh,
that he had picked up and just put in my hand with no words. It was just he did that for me. It was one of those sweet, tender moments.
yeah.
I never talked about it we with him or and it was just one of those sweet moments. I, I mean, I tell you, you're a father, I'm a
Yes.
father.
Yeah.
How my father was with me really impacted how I fathered my daughter
Sure.
because I was so I wanted to give her what I didn't get because I knew it was normal and uh, and that sort of a thing. And
Yeah.
so I have a very close relationship with my daughter, who's,
Wonderful.
she's a grown-up woman,
Yeah.
and she recently confronted me about some things, and I'm so
Hmm.
proud of her that she feels safe to come to me with anything.
Hmm.
I'd
Well,
like to
you're, yeah.
I'd like to hear you say something about your fathering experience.
Yeah. Well, my son is 7. He'll be 8 in July. And, something that comes up for me now is, one way you and I know each other is through the personal development workshop that focuses on connecting with those emotional memories that people call inner child. And so and I just remember a lot of students talking about when they were kids and how they reacted, responded to how their parents parented them. So for me, it's like I have a real life inner child running around, this 7-year-old boy. So I'm very mindful and intentional for like what I'm role modeling and kind of how I'm acting, behaving. I mean, do my best, progress, not perfection. But you mentioned feelings, so it's very important for me to when he's angry to not shame him for that. Like you're really angry now, and or you're having a hard time. It's okay to have a hard time. Excuse me. Or it's okay to be sad, or it's okay to be. We went to Disney World. Here's a perfect story. Went to Disney World and went on a few rides, and he said how scared he was. And I didn't shame him for that or minimize it. I said, it's okay to be scared. I'm really glad that you're telling me you're afraid. I didn't want to let you know you're scared and you're okay and you're safe. I'm here. You're safe. You're not in danger. So
Yeah.
just taking the time to give him those messages, I think I'm hoping can be very helpful for him,
Oh,
significant.
for sure. For sure. I
Yeah.
mean, I respond to language like that as an adult. I can, the children are so sensitive, and
Yeah.
it's important to honor that. And when I see men especially get down to that sensitive level, it really does warm my heart, or whatever that expression is. Really, when I saw those military general guys get down and weep for how they had alienated their children or whatever it was. I was so
Yeah.
caught up in my career that I ignored my family. Oh God, it was just the sweetest.
The depths of vulnerability that are possible and that are shared in groups is it never ceases to amaze me. And there's another concept I just wanted to bring up in the group of called transference, where people will be triggered by another group member because this group member reminds them of their own father or brother or younger version of themselves or older version of themselves. And in the group work, you can use that to process, who does he remind you of, for example?
Yeah.
And then let's do the work around that. Or
So
now you can do work with your dad in this group.
that's a little like constellation type work,
Hmm.
which I think really zeroes in on a reality. We're always creating constellations. We're enrolling people, places, and things to
Hmm.
recreate anything that we're not finished with.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
and you can have conversations in group like that. And so I like to tell the guys I focus less on the content of what's being said, although there's value in that, and more on the process or the concept what's called here and now, like what's happening in the moment
Yeah,
for you. And you can get such depth and then teaching them how to share with each other. As guys, again, another generalization, but it's in most of our DNA to fix it. We just want to fix it
right.
and give advice. And I tell the guys, well, if you're feeling a lot of energy around sharing with another guy, giving him feedback, it's probably because what you're hearing kicks up something for you. So share from your own experience, right? So Andy, when I hear you talk about your father, it reminds me of those few moments with my own dad, who the hugs maybe weren't as frequently as I'd like, and that creates a deeper connection than if I just give you feedback or give you advice, right? So teaching the guys even how to share from their own perspective or how they relate is more powerful and creates that vulnerability more than, okay, this is what you need to do. I got the answer for you. So
And
it requires them to show up a little bit differently as men.
and I've noticed, like you said, that men tend to be more content oriented. Women tend to be more process oriented, but it is a skill that maybe they just had more practice or their brains are wired different or whatever it is. But there's such value in focusing on process. And I also like to call what I do here and now therapy. So it's lovely to hear you say that.
Yeah. There's a psychiatrist. Well, I think he's still alive. He's in his 90s. His name is Irwin Yalom, and
Oh,
he
yeah,
is
I
like
love his stuff.
iconic in the world of
Yeah.
group therapy, also existential therapies. But so he's got a lot of literature on the here and now, and he'll use that all the time. It's got such great
Yeah.
value.
Did you ever read any of his fiction stories?
Absolutely, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
brilliant, yes, I love it. Every one.
And he wrote a whole book about death and dying. What was it
Yes,
called? Something about the
staring in the
sun,
sun,
staring
staring
in
in
the
the sun.
sun. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
death
yeah.
death anxiety is what he focused
Yes.
that particular book. Yeah,
And
yeah, brilliant
just from a
man.
rational state place, he said, you'll be dead. Everybody else who survives you they're gonna be sad and this and that, but you're not gonna be sad.
Yeah,
You're not there to experience it. And
yeah.
somehow that was a little helpful.
We also role modeled in his work, like he'll use the relationship like a primary tool for healing, and he'll share, hey, this is what's coming up for me in the moment. Like, how's that landing? Like right now, when you're saying something, I'm feeling really sad. I'm feeling really scared right now. What do you suppose that's about? So using what's coming up for him,
Yeah.
role modeling his own humanity and vulnerability to help the person get the insight that they need to get or can get.
On a good work day, I'm in therapy all day long. And
Yeah,
it's so helpful. I mean,
yeah,
I don't want to reveal the therapy code or anything, but we get a lot out of it.
tremendously. I mean, just to see with the men and the work they're committed to doing and the changes they experience as a result of the work and the way they're opening up and how it affects the relationships they attract outside of the group, how they communicate differently in their relationships. It's really, really special.
So I want to address one final thing
Sure.
that I found that the women that I shared that I was going to do this
Yeah.
podcast with you, they
Yeah.
had some kind of prurient interest to know what men secretly talk about when there's no women around. Would you would you be willing to address that and reveal the man code to the women?
I don't know that they'd be I can imagine women now just like leaning into their screens or their phones right now to what's he gonna say?
Yeah, right.
And I don't know that I think I'd be disappointing them in my answer, and
What do you mean? Men are just humans?
we're just human. I think it was shared earlier what it's like. A good men's group that I've seen, or at least the iteration I'm working with, it's a combination of that sophomoric humor where they're busting chops and
Yeah.
jokes that are like immature jokes that guys get a rise out of. So there's that. Um, but there's also the serious work. So they'll talk a lot about the shame of feeling not good enough in the men that they are in their relationship, or the frustration they might feel in relationship about um, being needed, like having to maybe pick up more slack in a relationship and the challenges of that, or how to communicate in a way that you are showing the partner that they're listening or being heard. So they'll talk about how hard that is, or I told her this and I don't understand why she reacted that way. So there is a genuine curiosity about, well, what am I, how am I supposed to communicate, or how can I communicate so I feel closer to my girlfriend or to my wife. Um, so they'll be curious and they'll want to talk about those things. And so, again, I don't think the women would be so like super shocked. Oh, they talk about this. They have their own when they're feeling safe and comfortable, which I think my group has been able to give one another. They'll talk about those. They'll get vulnerable, like you mentioned with the generals, about the fears of like relationship, finding the right person, um, the challenges of dating again after divorce, the fear of meeting someone, of not trying to not recreating the same drama that they had in a prior relationship,
Yeah.
challenges of being a parent, maybe a single parent or co-parenting. We'll talk about that. So I hate to disappoint the ladies, that there's some kind of man code, but that's what I'd say.
For some reason, what comes to mind, I worked with a couple where the man was much older than the woman, and I had
Hmm.
seen her privately, and she complained to me about how her husband wasn't very emotionally savvy or attentive. And so, my strategy was and I warned her in advance, was to confront her in front of him. And I just ripped into her. And at one point, he said, "Yeah, I have feelings too." And then she looked up and we winked at each other. And after that, he was like a softie after that because he had finally confessed that he had feelings too
How
and
about
that
that?
that mattered.
Breakthrough.
Yeah,
Breakthrough.
it was so cute. And he referred me to all his old curmudgeon friends. It was
They're
really,
so they're kind of like a niche that developed. You work with curmudgeons.
yes.
I specialize in curmudgeons.
But I think what you're saying, what I hear you saying is that given an opportunity, men really do get down and get vulnerable and get supportive, and
Yeah.
they talk about their vulnerabilities and fears in relationships. So
Yeah. Yeah.
no matter how cocky they may seem or distant or blank or whatever, they may seem to the women that they're with that there is a depth to men.
Yeah. And they're, to come to a group and have their defenses or their protections called out in real time. So guys like use sense of humor a lot, for example, to deflect or to not to feel. And so for other guys, not even for me to point that out is very valuable. And so again, if we're experiencing this way, chances are high that your wife is experiencing you in the same way. And
Yeah.
what do you think it'd be like to be in her shoes? And so that, oh wow, and I didn't think of it that way. Moments.
Oh my God, you're actually saying participation in men's groups makes men's better spouses, better partners.
I'll tell you this, I've been doing this 16 years now, and I've never heard, ever since I joined a men's group, my life turned to shit. I've never heard that before. I've only
Yeah.
heard that's been really, life changing, and
I,
I'm
I,
so grateful for the guys.
I would rephrase that if you put it on your brochure, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is catchy though.
it is catchy. I have never heard anybody say, all right,
Yeah, but
listen.
that earlier, just again, the thing I mentioned earlier, just to stress,
Yeah,
it's when they're part of a group and they're feeling safe and comfortable. When one guy, all it takes is one guy to open up or to emote, And it really does give permission for the other guys to show, oh, if he didn't know I can do it, it's okay. And that's really powerful because they don't really get that in their lives.
And that in and of itself is a remarkable phenomenon where a man gets to be the leader because of his vulnerability.
Yes, yes. Huge. Vulnerability is strength,
Vulnerability
not
is strength.
weakness. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that
yeah.
is a huge lesson for men and humans to
Huge.
learn.
Huge, 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 huge.
Huge.
Absolutely.
All right, so listen, it's I don't even know how long we've been doing this.
This went by quick.
Yeah. All right, it's a pleasure to be with you. Uh, let's get together and shoot the shit.
I love that. Anytime, Andy. Anytime. Thank you for bringing me on the show. I love what you're doing, and look forward to seeing the product. And again, hopefully the women you talk to aren't feeling disappointed. Hopefully
I know we
they
hate to disappoint women. I tell you.
they
Somebody, final little note.
Yes,
I
sir.
was working with a couple. They're a young couple, and
Mhm,
I've seen him privately, her privately. I work with them
mhm.
together, and he said to be, I feel like my life is, I'm being slain by a beautiful woman every day, and I welcome it. It's like,
Wow.
damn, that's poetry.
Wow.
It's
Powerful.
just, yeah, powerful. I might edit that part out just because it doesn't fit so much of anything else. All right, but anyway, thank you so much
Thank you.
for what you do. Thank you for you're very articulate. You have a warmth to you. You know, you're easy to trust, easy to like. You're the best.
Man, I should have done this sooner to get those compliments. Likewise, Andy. Appreciate you. Well, it was a great fun, Andy. I appreciate it. That
Yeah,
was really so much fun.
you're welcome.
Thanks, Andy. Bye bye.
Bye.